Intuition versus fear. Let's break it down. I'm going to go really rapid through a few sources of information and share a little bit of my own experience with this. So, intuition versus fear. How do we know which is which? There is a teacher of mine and a dear friend, mentor who I will reference first, Ashley Garcia. She did a beautiful job of just summing it up with fear is false evidence appearing real, as we've heard before, and it can often be very much related to an inner critic, perhaps. I mean, this is where we can talk about parts work at length. But unlike the fear responses that can show up in our psyche that can be very critical, intuition is going to come from a calm knowing, essentially. It might dial up its urgency and its demands for you to pay attention if you have been ignoring it. However, it's still going to be a quality of encouragement and for your betterment, a sense of wise guide, a wise guide leading you in the direction of your highest and greatest good versus that what's wrong with you, what were you thinking, or why would you do that. It's not going to come through in that kind of energy. It's going to be perhaps don't go there or take a step left, avoid that edge, just reconsider that party you're going to, reconsider that trip. It's often too, this is where we'll talk about Laura May and for her book Prism. She was recently interviewed by Alyssa Nobriga, and I think she did a beautiful job of summarizing that intuition is accurate, it's immediate, and it's actionable. So it often does give us real-time instruction about what needs to happen or not happen. And sometimes and oftentimes it can be really inconvenient, and that's why we grapple with it. We don't want to listen to our intuition because sometimes it's asking us to do things that are either courageous or, again, inconvenient, or we just don't fully understand why it doesn't fit with our logic. So it requires us to trust and take a leap of faith. And then the accuracy piece is what comes later. So this leads into a practice that I think can be super helpful. Alyssa Nobriga talks about this, and I happen to find it through another practitioner I forget the name of. But journal your intuitive hits. Whatever intuitive nudges you get, start to journal them, whether you listen to them or not. Now that's the key. I know for me in December of 2024, I had an experience where I was given an intuitive hit to not go to a dental appointment. I went. A people pleaser part of me, a stingy part of me that didn't want to pay a cancellation fee, and a fear part of me won that battle that day. And I really sat down to sit with it too. I was really looking to discern, and at that point, I really couldn't fully discern between if that was my intuition saying cancel, don't go today, or if it was fear, so I went. However, because I went and I had confirmation that it was an intuitive hit, that it was accurate, because I've had for the past year and a half since then issues with this tooth. And every time I've had, it fortunately isn't too bad, but it's enough to notice. And I get these painful sensations when eating and just with certain liquids, just temperature changes. And it's very interesting that it reminds me of the consequences of not listening. And it also reminds me of the sensation I had and how my intuition was coming through. This is where, too, it's really interesting to note that while our intuition will work with our senses, it is its own sensory experience. Meaning, for some people, too, they might have a poor sense of smell and taste, but that's actually where their intuition comes through most. Say they can smell or taste changes in the market. That's one of the examples Laura May gave as well. Or someone's hard of hearing and yet they get intuitive whispers. Some people will have a tap on their head or a ping sound, or they will get images that will flash on the left of their visual field, or visions that flash on the right, or a sensation in their gut, their heart, their knees, their arm. This is where it's for you to determine and start journaling. What are the different inputs of intuition you're getting, and what is it about that you're questioning? and start to just collect data for yourself, because this is a very unique, personal, individual thing. So not only does it start to invite us into a deeper conversation on parts work, which can be its own part to unpack, meaning that we have various aspects of self. Our fear, for example, is an aspect of ourselves that's important too. We're not saying only listen to intuition and never listen to fear. We have to be discerning with how we listen to fear, though, because especially for those of us who have had various types of trauma, whether the insidious, accumulated types of trauma that go under the radar versus the capital T, very overt catastrophizing events, either way, these kinds of things can really cause our nervous system to have a hypervigilance, a hyperarousal, and our relationship to the threat system can be accentuated to the point that we are sometimes experiencing not a real present moment threat, but an experience that reminds us of the past, a trigger. And triggers are roadmaps to where we're not free, where we're then still being kept captive by the past. And it's an opportunity to free us into more coherence, into more integration that allows us to be more open to a field of information. Our conscious mind can only take in so much at a time. We need to have a mental filter. And our subconscious, on the other hand, is taking in so much information always. And then there's the superconscious, this soul level experience. And the more that we have healed trauma in our physical systems, the more that we can reconnect with our soul and heighten our intuitive capacity again, to be more sensitive and attuned to our soul knowing, if you will. Because that's where, too, not only does trauma lead people to hypervigilance, sometimes it actually causes them to be so shut down in a freeze or a functional freeze state that they don't even pick up on threats. So it can go either way. But the point is those factors can be one of the reasons that we have an estranged relationship to our intuition. And then there are various people who also have clearly a very extra giftedness in this capacity, a mediumship, a clairvoyance, or so on and so forth. And the reality is that all of us have access to that, and yet it does take a desire to practice it and to attune to it. There are various things in our life that can cause us to feel scared of it, to shut it down. And one other thing I'll say for now, there's so many pieces to unpack, but as a side note that feels really related, I just learned about a concept called death cookies. I guess it's pulled from Phil Stutt's work, and it is related to when we are ignoring our intuitive nudges and our sense of a soul calling, and we're feeling really resistant to that, and we don't go and do that thing, that it steals our life force. And it leads us to depression and despair. And yet, once we finally do the things that we've been avoiding, it actually gives us back our life force and 1% more. So this is the beauty of this experience too, is the more we trust our instincts, the more they're there for us. The more we hone our intuition and tune the instrument that is our body to be connected to this information, the more that it dials up and can offer us life force, aliveness, and glee. Those are a few top-level notes. Of course, there's more to explore. If you have any questions, please let me know.